This is the ENAS, an enterprise NAS device from Ubiquiti that runs ZFS. This thing is crazy and there's a lot to unpack here. So we're going to jump straight into the hardware before discussing some of the software later. First, the ENAS runs on ARM, and specifically an 8-core ARM Neoverse N2 CPU. The second people hear ARM, they assume it's a weaker chip, but at this tier, that's just not really true. Neoverse is ARM's server-class platform designed for the kind of sustained, always-on workloads you'd put a NAS through. What you get with it is strong performance per watt, so the device runs efficiently while still handling ZFS well. The main point is that this is not a compromise, and the performance has been great over my time testing it. Next is memory, and it's 64 gigs of ECC RAM. ECC catches and corrects memory errors before they hit your data, but the reason it matters so much here is ZFS. ZFS checksums everything to guarantee integrity, but it can only protect data that was correct when it arrived in memory. If a bit flips in RAM before that block gets written, ZFS will checksum the bad version and technically store the corruption. So the one thing meant to protect your data ends up causing issues. Then there's dual NVMe cache, 2 M.2 slots that function as an L2 ARC read cache, so your frequently accessed data hits fast storage instead of waiting on spinning drives. Now the networking. Dual 25 gig SFP28 ports and one 10 gigabit NIC. Most devices, even in this price point, ship with 10 gig, so 25 gig is a real benefit, and having two of them allows you to maximize throughput and redundancy. From a power perspective, you get redundant power supplies, so there's no single point of failure there either. Last is expansion, where the device comes with two mini SAS HD ports that allow you to scale your deployment if needed. Okay, so that's the hardware, but honestly, the hardware isn't really the headline. The headline is native ZFS. If you've seen my video on why everyone loves TrueNAS, the main reason was ZFS. In my opinion, it's the best file system you can use for data integrity. You get checksums on every block, so ZFS knows when data has gone bad. You get self-healing, where it repairs that bad data automatically using a good copy from your redundancy. And you get snapshots that freeze your data at a point in time without duplicating everything. Now, ZFS on ARM is the part that makes this stand out. You don't see a lot of pre-built devices running ZFS natively on an ARM chip. And the fact that Ubiquiti got it working on those Neoverse cores with proper ECC backing it is a real accomplishment. And with it, you get just about everything you'd expect. Mirrors, RAID Z1, Z2, and Z3, but we'll talk more about that later. So when you put it all together, the ECC, the ZFS, and the cache, that's the combination enterprises normally pay a premium for. And it's all packed into this device for $3,999, which to home users might sound expensive, but in the enterprise space, it's actually on the low end. Now that we have the hardware and the benefits of ZFS out of the way, let's take a look at UniFi Drive. So if you've never used UniFi Drive, this is the default dashboard. And UniFi Drive is one of my favorite NAS operating systems just because of how user-friendly it is. And as we go through this, you're going to see that in a lot of different ways. So the first thing I want to talk through is storage pools. So when you go to the storage pools section here, you're going to see a bunch of different things. And basically this top section here is going to be the different configuration types that you can use. So you can have a standard RAID configuration, which is basically what I have here, where I have one storage pool and it is configured with RAID Z1. And what that means is that I have one disk of redundancy. Now this is a test setup, and in a production setup, it wouldn't be like this, but overall, this gives you a lot of different options here. So like I mentioned earlier, you have mirrors, RAID Z1, RAID Z2, and RAID Z3. So that is basically your parity data. So one disk, two disks, or three disks of parity data. So when you click into the storage pool here, you're going to see a few new options here, and you have this storage shield. So the storage shield is really just ZFS scrubs. If you're using a UNAS Pro, they added this as well, but the UNAS Pro uses Btrfs and this is using ZFS. So it looks the same, but it functions a little differently, mainly around the file system. But this option, you want to make sure you have this enabled. But overall, this is just going to be a full look at the actual storage pool that is set up. In the bottom here, you're going to see these M.2 SSDs. So like I mentioned, this is for L2 ARC, which is layer 2 ARC. In ZFS, the main L1 ARC, which can be viewed as kind of like data caching, that's done inside of RAM. So those 64 gigs of ECC RAM will be used for L1 ARC, but L2 ARC can be added to improve performance as well. And what you'll see here is that it's added to the storage pool. So that's the storage pool section here. The last thing that you could do to the storage pool is you can actually encrypt it if you wanted to. So we're going to talk about encrypting individual shared drives in a second, but if you want to encrypt the entire storage pool, they allow you to do that here. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the actual shared drives. So if I create a new shared drive here, you're going to see a bunch of different options here if you're used to UniFi Drive. And these options really have to do with ZFS and the benefits that ZFS provides. So we're going to talk through each of them. So think of sync as checking to ensure that the data was written successfully and getting a reply back that it actually was. Standard is what almost everyone will always use. In very, very rare circumstances, you're going to use disabled, and I say you, but most people probably won't. Standard is what most people should use. But it gives you the option to basically check to make sure that that data was written successfully. Now, record size, this is a little different. So think of if you were traveling, you have different sizes that you can put your clothes in, your belongings in. It's the same thing, but it's with data. So you can look at it like this is the size of the box, and then the data that can be put into that box can be at a maximum of 1 megabyte. So if you had really large files, you're going to get better overall performance with bigger boxes on things like sequential reads and writes. But if you were doing something like running a database, you're doing a lot of very, very small transactions at that point. And this is a hard size. So you wouldn't want a huge box for something that realistically is only taking up a very small portion of it. So this should be tuned to the type of data that will be stored inside of this shared drive, but it's nice to have the option. This is just your user access, your snapshots. So this is where you can specify your snapshots. They are immutable snapshots, meaning that they can't be encrypted or anything after the fact, but this is where you configure them and how often they will run. SMB trash, think of it like a recycle bin. So rather than the data just being deleted through SMB, it will actually go into its own trash can. Encrypt drive, this is where you can encrypt an individual drive. I showed you where you can encrypt an entire storage pool. This is where you can encrypt the entire drive though. And then we have two more options. So compression level, this is where you can actually compress data. So what I mean by that is if you're storing data inside of a shared drive, the actual ZFS pool itself can compress that data. Now, if you're adding already compressed data, it's not going to seem like it's a huge deal. But if you're adding uncompressed data, this can actually be a huge savings. So this, again, depends on the type of data that you will be storing here. And finally, deduplication. Now, deduplication can impact system performance. So the way that this generally works is you have to accept the terms and enable it. But what it's doing is it's trying to take data that has been stored where there are similar blocks, and it's trying to only store them once. So what ends up happening is if you're storing the same type of data over and over and over again, you're going to be writing unnecessary blocks. They're all using the same data in the background. So if you could reference that one block for all of those files, you're going to save a lot of storage space. That's what deduplication does. Again, it impacts performance, but depending on what you're storing here, it can be a huge savings. So with these options out of the way, let's take a look at how you can access that data. And you can access that data by using these file services. So SMB and NFS has always been here, but recently rsync has been added. So you can now use rsync with UniFi Drive. But what more people are going to be excited about is the iSCSI section. So iSCSI has been added so that you can create LUNs. This allows you to do things like configure virtual machine storage so that you can use high availability. If you had a hypervisor specifically in a cluster and you wanted to use shared storage for high availability purposes, This is generally the best way that you can do that. This is something that was not added a while ago that a lot of people wanted. So it's great to see it's here, and it's necessary in an enterprise device like this. So it's good that they added it. And the last thing I want to talk about is backup. So this backup section, in my opinion, is one of the cleanest ways that any NAS operating system showcases backups. So you have a few options here. The first is that you can just configure a regular old offsite backup. And this works with UniFi Fabric, so it can be managed at a higher level if you had multiple sites. But this basically just says, select your data, select where you want to back that data up, and then you can basically just ensure that the data that is on site will get backed up to somewhere that is offsite. And then up here are the different options that you have. So if you wanted to back it up to the cloud, I've used Backblaze B2 for many years. This is where you can configure all of that. You also have options for local backups, where you can either back up this console or back up data from a separate rsync server and back it up onto this device. So you would generally do this locally if you had multiple storage pools and you wanted each of them to back up to one another. And finally, protected cloud. This is a very cool enterprise feature as well. So this allows you to connect directly to Microsoft 365 and back up the entire tenant to this NAS device here. So this is a very easy way to ensure that all of that important data is successfully backed up locally. And then from there, you could back it up again if you were using multiple sites using Fabrics. There's also full identity services, so you can configure directory integration if you were using Microsoft 365 or you had a local AD server. And that's also the way that you would access this data on a mobile device if you wanted to. Now, I want to highlight that while that seems like a pretty basic and standard offering, because of the way it's presented, it seems that way. But there's actually a lot happening behind the scenes, and that's why people like UniFi Drive. And it's the main reason why I just mentioned earlier in this video that it's one of the most user-friendly NAS operating systems you can use, because everything just makes sense. Now, overall, that's just about everything there is to know about the ENAS. This is a true enterprise NAS device. On a personal level, I love the fact that they added ZFS to this, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. But overall, that was just a first look at this device. So I hope you got some value out of this video. I will leave affiliate links down below in case you're interested in purchasing. If you do and you use my link, I will earn a small commission at no cost to you. So thank you for your support. But other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.